I once believed that spending 2 years raising a child who wasn't mine was the deepest betrayal imaginable, until I learned that my wife had been with 15 other men during our marriage. The DNA test was only the start of a nightmare that shattered everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty. My name is Daniel Hopkins. I'm 43 years old, and for the past 15 years, I've worked my way up to become the sales director at Meridian Pharmaceuticals. I thought my life was perfectly in order. A beautiful home in Westfield, 2 kids, and a wife who still turned heads wherever she went. Our oldest, Theodore, had just begun his first year of college. Little Dylan, barely 2, was the unexpected blessing that was supposed to mend our marriage. That Tuesday morning seemed ordinary enough. I was going over regional reports when Isabella swept through the room, car keys twirling between her polished fingers. She looked radiant, too radiant for someone heading out to lunch with her book club friends. "I'll be back around 3, Isabella said casually, not meeting my eyes. "We're trying that new bistro downtown." Something in her tone made me look up. She was wearing the black dress I'd given her for our anniversary, her makeup flawless, her auburn hair styled with care. "Since when does book club call for formal wear?" I asked. Her laugh came out thin and practiced. "Can't a woman look nice for her friends? Margaret mentioned we might stop by that new art gallery afterward." She gave me a quick, distracted kiss on the forehead and left. The scent she wore lingered in the air, something expensive and unfamiliar. I sat there staring at the empty doorway, while doubts I'd been burying for months began to claw their way back. The late-night messages she swore came from her sister. The new appointments that conveniently coincided with Dylan's daycare pickups. But the thing that truly haunted me was the envelope hidden in my desk drawer, a DNA test for Dylan I'd ordered during a moment of weakness, when the timing of everything just didn't make sense. Isabella had grown distant right around when Dylan would have been conceived. We'd spent a year trying for another baby, and then after one bitter argument about my work hours, she suddenly announced she was pregnant. My hands shook as I pulled out the sealed envelope. I told myself I was overreacting. But as soon as I tore it open and read the official document, my world tilted on its axis. The words leapt out in cold clarity. Probability of paternity, 0%. Dylan wasn't mine. I moved through the house like a man underwater. In the kitchen, I laid the DNA results face up on the table, right where Isabella would see them the moment she came home. And then I waited. At 3:47 p.m., I heard her car pull into the driveway. She entered the house humming. Actually humming, like someone who'd just had the best day of her life. Her cheeks were flushed, lipstick fresh. "Daniel, I'm home," she called brightly, walking into the kitchen still glowing from whatever her lunch had really been. But the second her eyes fell on the papers spread across the table, everything stopped. The humming died. The color drained from her face. "What is this?" Isabella whispered, though she already knew. The silence between us was sharp and heavy. She stared at the DNA results, her expression flickering between shock, fear, and calculation. Her manicured fingers trembled as she lifted the pages, scanning the technical wording as if she could somehow make it say something different. "Where did you get this?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Does it matter?" I replied, standing up slowly. "The question isn't where it came from. It's whose child Dylan really is." Isabella set the papers down as if they might catch fire. She walked to the sink, gripping the counter until her knuckles turned white. "Daniel, I can explain," she began, but I cut her off. "Can you?" "Because I've been sitting here for hours trying to figure out how you explain a 0% match. There's no middle ground here, Isabella. Either Dylan is my son, or he isn't." She turned toward me, and for the first time in our marriage, she looked utterly defeated. The confident woman who had left that morning was gone, replaced by someone cornered and frightened. "It's not what you think," she said weakly. "Then tell me what it is," I demanded. "Because right now, I'm thinking my wife of 20 years has been living a lie for the last 2. Every memory of Dylan, every diaper change, every sleepless night, every proud moment of his first steps, suddenly felt tainted by deceit." Isabella flinched at that word as if it had struck her. She opened her mouth, then shut it again. The silence was unbearable. "How long?" I asked quietly. "Daniel, please. How long have you been cheating on me?" She lowered her head, her shoulders slumping as if the weight of her lies had finally crushed her. "It wasn't supposed to happen," she murmured. "That's not an answer." How long? Her eyes closed. 3 years. The number hit me like a blow to the chest. 3 years. Dylan was 2. That meant she'd been unfaithful for his entire life, and even before. Who? I asked, though part of me already wished I didn't know. Isabella's expression twisted, somewhere between guilt and irritation at being caught. Preston Clark. Preston, my colleague. The pharmaceutical rep who'd been to our home for barbecues and holiday parties over the past 5 years. The same man who brought Dylan a stuffed elephant when he was born, who shook my hand and congratulated me on becoming a father again. Preston, I repeated, the name burning in my mouth like acid. Preston Clark. Isabella nodded, tears brimming in her eyes, but they weren't tears of regret. They were the tears of someone finally forced to face the fallout of their lies. Daniel, I never meant for it to go this far, she began, taking a hesitant step toward me. I raised my hand, cutting her off mid-stride. Don't. You don't get to play the victim here. You made choices, Isabella, every single day for 3 years. Her composure cracked, anger spilling through. You were never home, she snapped. Always working, always traveling, always choosing your career over your family. I was lonely, Daniel. Invisible. So your solution was to sleep with Preston? I shot back. To let me raise his son as my own? Color rose in her cheeks. I didn't know. When I got pregnant, I hoped. You hoped what? That you could keep lying forever? I hoped I could fix it before you found out, she whispered, her voice shaking. I stared at her, stunned by her audacity. Fix it? You mean continue the charade? Keep letting me raise another man's child under my roof? It's not that simple, Daniel. You don't understand. Then make me understand, I said evenly. Explain how sleeping with Preston Clark for 3 years is complicated. Explain how letting me believe Dylan was mine is anything other than betrayal. Isabella wiped her smeared makeup with the back of her hand. When Theodore left for college, everything shifted. You buried yourself in work. I felt like I didn't exist. Preston was there. He listened. He made me feel alive again. So now it's my fault. I asked bitterly. No, she said quickly. But you weren't present, Daniel. Even when you were home, you weren't really here. I turned, grabbed my phone from the counter, and held it up. Call him. What? Call Preston. Right now? I want to hear you tell him that I know. Tell him his son has been living in my house, sleeping in the crib I built, calling me dad. Her face went pale. Daniel, please don't do this. Who are you trying to protect? Him, or yourself? She didn't respond. That silence told me everything. I snatched her phone, scrolled through her contacts, found Preston's number, and pressed call, putting it on speaker. Hey, beautiful, came Preston's voice, smooth and casual. Miss me already? The words hit me like a hammer. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a full-blown relationship. Isabella looked like she wanted to disappear. Preston, I said into the phone, my voice low and steady. It's Daniel Hopkins. The silence on the line stretched for several long seconds before Preston finally answered. His tone completely changed. Daniel, we need to talk. All 3 of us, I said coldly. Tonight. Look, Daniel, I can explain. Explain how you've been sleeping with my wife and fathered a child I've been raising for 2 years. Yeah, I'd love to hear that explanation. Isabella lunged forward and ended the call, her hands shaking. He doesn't know about Dylan, she said weakly. The blood drained from my face. What do you mean he doesn't know? I never told him. When I got pregnant, I wasn't sure who the father was. I stared at her. There were others? The word hung heavy between us. How many? I demanded. She couldn't meet my eyes. It doesn't matter now. It matters to me, I said sharply. How many men were you sleeping with when Dylan was conceived? Daniel, please. Answer me. 3, she whispered. Maybe 4. Rage and disbelief collided inside me. I didn't let her finish another word. I stormed out of the kitchen, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. Where are you going? Isabella shouted after me. To find out who Dylan's real father is. I drove straight to Preston's downtown office. The 40-minute trip gave me too much time to think about what she'd admitted. 3 or 4 men, while she was carrying my supposed son. Multiple affairs. Layers of lies. Preston worked for Hartwell Pharmaceuticals on the 15th floor. I'd been there dozens of times for meetings, but never like this. Never as the betrayed husband come to face his wife's lover. The receptionist tried to stop me, but I pushed past her and stormed straight into Preston's corner office. He was mid-conference call when I threw the door open without knocking. "I'll call you back," Preston muttered into his headset, his eyes locking onto mine. He was a tall man, impeccably dressed, the kind who probably played golf every weekend and drove a BMW. "Daniel, we should discuss this in private," he said. "We are discussing this in private," I replied, shutting the door behind me. "Unless you'd rather talk about your affair with my wife in front of your colleagues." Preston loosened his tie, a flicker of nervousness crossing his face. I felt a grim satisfaction. "Look, I know how this looks, but Isabella and I—" "It's complicated," he stammered. "It's not complicated at all," I said coldly. "You've been sleeping with my wife. The only question now is whether Dylan is your child." Preston paled. "What?" "Isabella told me she was involved with 3 or 4 men around the time Dylan was conceived. The DNA test shows he's not yours, so he's either yours or one of the other men's." He sank into his chair, stunned. I had no idea about any of this. I thought it was just between us." "Just between us?" I spat. "There's nothing just about sleeping with a married woman for 3 years. 3 years." Preston looked genuinely shocked. "Daniel, I've only been seeing Isabella for about 8 months. 8 months? But Isabella had claimed 3 years. Either she lied to me, or she lied to him." "She told me 3 years," I said. "No way," Preston insisted. "We met at that pharma conference in Chicago last fall, right after Halloween. We talked at the hotel bar, and one thing led to another." 8 months. That meant Dylan could not be Preston's child. "Who else has she been seeing?" I asked. "I don't know," he admitted, though I could see realization dawn in his eyes. "She told me you were separated, having problems." "I would never." "You never would have what? Slept with a married woman?" I interrupted. Preston stayed silent. I grabbed my phone. "Call Isabella." She answered on the first ring. "Daniel, where are you? We need to talk at home." "I'm with Preston," I said. "He says you've only been seeing him for 8 months. Care to explain the discrepancy?" The silence was heavy. "Isabella, are you there?" "Yes. I'm here," she murmured. "Who was it 3 years ago? Who were you sleeping with when our marriage was supposedly solid?" Another long pause. "My trainer," she whispered. "Victor, from the elite downtown fitness center. I'd seen him a few times when I picked her up after workouts, back when I thought she was actually exercising. He was exactly the kind of man Isabella would find irresistible in a lonely spell. Younger than me, muscular, exuding that arrogant confidence women sometimes fall for when questioning their choices. "Victor," I called across the gym floor. "We need to talk." He looked up, recognized me immediately. Guilt, or maybe just the fatigue of a man who knew affairs with married women eventually caught up to him, flickered across his face. "Mr. Hopkins," he said, helping a kid re-rack weights. "What brings you here?" "I think you know," I said, gesturing to his office, a small room overlooking the main gym floor. He led me inside, and I closed the door behind us. "Isabella told me," I began without preamble, "that about 3 years ago, it was you." Victor leaned on his desk, arms crossed. He didn't deny it, a small respect I probably shouldn't have felt. "I'm sorry. It was a mistake," he said. "She said you two were having problems," I remarked, noting how cliché it sounded. "Most married women who ended up here claimed the same." Victor looked uncomfortable. Isabella, however, had genuinely been unhappy, enough to sleep with her personal trainer while her husband worked 60-hour weeks to pay for those sessions. "I didn't know about your work schedule," he shrugged. "I just knew she was lonely." I pulled out my phone and showed him a picture of Dylan. "This is my son, though DNA proves he isn't mine. Isabella was involved with multiple men when he was conceived. Was one of them you?" Victor stared at the photo, his expression shifting as he absorbed the truth. "Multiple men? According to her?" "Yes. You," I said flatly. "Preston Clark from Hartwell Pharmaceuticals, and at least 1 or 2 others whose names she couldn't clearly recall." "Jesus," Victor muttered. "I had no idea. I mean, I knew she was married, obviously, but I didn't know about anyone else. So, Dylan could be yours." Victor studied the photo again, then looked at me. "When was he born?" "March 15th, 2 years ago." Victor paused, doing the mental math. "It's possible," he said finally. "The timing lines up." A cold knot formed in my stomach. "I want a DNA test. You, me, and Dylan. I need to know who his father is." "Man, I don't know if that's such a good idea," Victor replied. "Why?" Because you might not want to pay child support for the next 16 years. There was a note of something in his voice that made me sit up. Because there could be more than just me and Preston you need to test. I stared at him. What do you mean? Victor ran a hand through his hair. Isabella wasn't exactly careful. There were rumors at the gym, stories about her with other trainers, some of the members. I thought it was just gossip, but now I'm starting to think it might have been true. I drove home in a daze, Victor's words echoing in my mind. Multiple trainers, multiple members. Isabella hadn't just had affairs. She had run them with the meticulous efficiency of a small business. When I walked into our house, Isabella sat at the kitchen table with Dylan on her lap. He was eating Cheerios with his tiny fingers, babbling happily like 2-year-olds do. Seeing him now, knowing what I knew, felt like staring at a stranger. Where have you been? Isabella asked. I was worried. I want to see Victor. Her face went pale. Dylan chose that moment to toss a handful of Cheerios onto the floor, laughing at his little mess. What did he tell you? She asked quietly. He confirmed your story about 3 years ago, I said. He also mentioned there might have been others. Lots of others. Isabella sat Dylan down, and he toddled off toward his toy box. Daniel, I can explain, she began. Can you? I asked sharply. Because I'm starting to think you can't even keep track of all the men you slept with. Victor says there were other trainers, other gym members. Is that true? She couldn't meet my eyes. It wasn't like that, she muttered. Then what was it like? Help me understand how my wife became the gym bicycle while I worked my tail off to provide for this family. Don't call me that, she snapped, though the fire behind it felt hollow. Then tell me the truth. All of it. Every man. Every affair. Every lie you've told me over the past 3 years. Isabella was silent for a long moment, watching Dylan play with his blocks. Finally, her voice barely rose above a whisper. It started with Victor. I felt neglected, unappreciated. He made me feel desired again. And then, Jake, from the front desk. That was only a few times. Dr. Harrison from your company. Remember the Christmas party 2 years ago? I remembered. Dr. Harrison, married with 3 kids, introduced to Isabella by me. Anyone else? A few other trainers, some men I met at bars when I said I was out with girlfriends. I stared at a woman I no longer recognized. The mother of my children, the person I'd shared my bed and dreams with for 20 years, living a secret life that would make a spy envious. How many? I asked. Daniel, does it matter? It matters to me. How many men since we've been married? She looked down at her hands. I stopped counting after 15. 15. The number hit me like a blow. Not 15 total in our marriage. 15 in addition to our normal relationship. 15 men who had been with my wife while I worked late, traveled for business, or cared for our children. Dylan could be any of their child. I'm sorry, she whispered. Sorry. After 20 years of marriage, after tearing our family apart, after making me raise another man's child for 2 years, she was sorry. I looked at Dylan, still absorbed in his blocks, oblivious to the adult chaos around him. An innocent victim, like Theodore. Like me. Pack your bags, I said quietly. Daniel, you can't just throw us out. This is my home too. I leaned down so we were eye to eye. This house is in my name. The cars, the bank accounts, mine. Everything here exists because I worked for it while you were busy working your way through half the men in town. Her eyes filled with tears, but I felt nothing. You have 1 hour, I said. After that, I'm calling the police. The next morning, I contacted the city's top divorce attorney, Rebecca Thompson, a woman famous for dismantling cheating spouses in court. Her consultation fee was $500 an hour, but money didn't matter anymore. Isabella had ensured that with her reckless spending on affairs. Mr. Hopkins, Rebecca said, reviewing the file I had prepared overnight. This is comprehensive, DNA results, bank statements, proof of multiple affairs. You've done my job for me. I want full custody of Theodore, I said. And I want Isabella to get nothing. Rebecca leaned back in her leather chair. Theodore is 18. Custody isn't an issue there. But with Dylan, even though he isn't biologically yours, you've acted as his father for 2 years. The court could still consider you responsible for support. That possibility had kept me awake all night. Even if his mother was involved with half the city when he was conceived? I asked. Unfortunately, yes. The child's best interests often outweigh marital misconduct. However, given the clear pattern of deceit and infidelity, we can likely limit your financial obligations. My phone buzzed. A text from Isabella. Daniel, please call me. We need to talk about Dylan. I showed Rebecca the message. She's panicking. Realized she can't support a child without your income, I said. Rebecca smiled, a confident, satisfied smile that made me glad she was on my side. There's more we need to address, she continued. Your wife's behavior may have exposed you to health risks. I recommend comprehensive testing. The thought hadn't occurred to me, but she was right. 15 men over 3 years. Who knew what Isabella might have brought home? I'll schedule testing today, I said. One more thing, Rebecca added. She mentioned multiple affairs at your workplace. If any of those harmed your professional reputation, we can pursue additional damages for loss of earning capacity. I thought of Dr. Harrison from the Christmas party. How many colleagues had known about Isabella's activities? How many professional relationships had been compromised? I'll document everything I can remember, I said. Rebecca nodded. Perfect. We'll file tomorrow. With this evidence, expect her attorney to push for a quick settlement. She's extremely vulnerable. As I left her office, my phone rang. It was Theodore. Dad, he asked. Mom called crying, saying you threw her out. What's happening? I had been dreading this conversation too. Son, there are things about your mother you don't know. Things I wish I didn't know. Like what? She's been unfaithful for years. Dylan isn't my biological son. The silence stretched so long I feared the call had dropped. Are you serious? Theodore finally asked. I have DNA proof and evidence of multiple affairs, I said. Jesus, Dad. I'm sorry. Are you okay? That question almost broke me. My 18-year-old son, while his world was collapsing, asked if I was okay. I will be, I said. We both will be. Isabella tried calling 17 times that day. I ignored every ring. By evening, she switched tactics, sending Theodore to the house as her messenger. Dad, Mom says you won't talk to her. She's staying at a motel with Dylan, and she's scared. I looked at my son, tall, serious, with my eyes but Isabella's stubborn chin. He deserved the truth. Theodore, sit down. There are things you need to know. I showed him everything. DNA results, bank statements, a full timeline of affairs spanning his entire high school career. Theodore listened silently, his face darkening with each revelation. 15 men, he said when I finished. At least. Maybe more. All those times she said she was at book club or shopping with friends, she was with other men. And Dylan isn't your son. No, he isn't your brother either. Not biologically. Theodore was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was firm. What do you need me to do? The question caught me off guard. What? To help with the divorce? Testify or something? I felt a surge of pride. My son was choosing sides, and he was choosing me. I might need you to confirm timelines about your mother's absences, her changes in behavior. Theodore nodded grimly. She was different after I started high school. More secretive, more defensive. I thought it was just empty nest syndrome, but it wasn't. My phone rang again. Isabella. Answer it, Theodore said. Let me talk to her. I put the call on speaker. Daniel. Thank God. Isabella's voice filled the room. I've been trying to reach you all day. We need to discuss Dylan's situation. Hello, Mother, I said. Theodore spoke with icy resolve. Theodore, what are you doing? Isabella demanded over the phone. Are you dragging our son into this? I'm standing up for myself, Theodore said. Dad, show me everything. The DNA tests, the bank statements, every detail. Theodore, you don't understand, Dash, she protested. I understand that you've lied to our entire family for years. I understand that you've destroyed Dad's life while he worked to support us. It's not that simple, Dash, she tried again. It is that simple, Theodore cut her off. You're a cheater and a liar, and Dylan isn't my brother. Please, Theodore, don't, Isabella pleaded. Don't call again except through lawyers, he said firmly, then hung up. I stared at my son, in awe of his courage. At 18, he had more backbone than some men twice his age. I'm proud of you, I said. I'm proud of you too, Dad, for not letting her get away with it, he replied. That night, Isabella sent one last text. You've turned my own son against me. I'll never forgive you for that. I showed Theodore. He laughed bitterly, a sound that revealed just how much he'd matured in one day. She still doesn't get it, he said. She turned me against her. You just told me the truth. 6 months later, I sat in Rebecca Thompson's office reviewing the final divorce settlement. Isabella's lawyer had fought hard, but the evidence was overwhelming. Multiple affairs, financial deception, and paternity fraud had erased any sympathy a judge might have felt for her. She gets nothing, Rebecca said, sliding the documents toward me. No alimony, no share of the house, no retirement benefits. The judge was especially strict regarding Dylan. Custody is unusual but fair. Legally, since Dylan isn't my biological son, I have no obligation. But the court allowed supervised visitation if I choose to maintain contact. What about her financial situation? I asked. She's moved in with Preston Clark. He left his wife after all this came out, and now they're both unemployed. His company fired him because of the scandal. Karma had its sense of humor. Isabella tried one last manipulation. Rebecca explained. She claimed Dylan was asking for me, suggesting it was cruel to abandon a child who believed I was his father. I reminded the judge that Isabella had created this mess by lying about paternity. Courts don't reward fraud with financial benefits. Theodore knocked and entered the office. 19 now, he had matured enormously through this ordeal. He was studying business administration and working part-time at a local pharmaceutical company, away from the drama. How'd it go, Dad? It's over. Your mother signed everything this morning. Theodore nodded. Good. She made her choices. We drove home in comfortable silence. The house felt different, peaceful, without the undercurrent of deception. I had redecorated, erasing Isabella's presence. It was mine now, truly mine. That evening, Theodore and I barbecued on the deck, talking about his college plans. Do you miss her? He asked. I miss who I thought she was, I answered honestly. But that person never really existed. Do you regret the marriage? I considered. No. It gave me you and 20 years of experiences that shaped who I am. I regret trusting her longer than I should have, but I don't regret trying. Theodore smiled. You're stronger than I thought you were. So are you. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Daniel, this is Preston. Isabella and I are struggling financially. Can you help with Dylan's expenses? He misses you. I showed Theodore. He laughed. I deleted the message without responding. Dylan wasn't my responsibility anymore. That was the cost of Isabella's deceptions. Later that night, I looked through old photo albums. Not with sadness, but with perspective. Every picture told a different story. Isabella's smile seemed fake, her affection calculated. My love for Theodore, however, was real. My efforts to build a family were genuine. I had survived my marriage's destruction and emerged stronger. My career flourished. Colleagues respected how I handled the situation with dignity. My bond with Theodore had deepened. Isabella tried to ruin me, but she had only ruined herself. I was free, financially secure, surrounded by people who truly cared. That was the ultimate revenge. 2 years after the divorce, I was a changed man. Not broken, not bitter, just wiser. I had learned to trust my instincts and never ignore red flags for the sake of peace. Theodore graduated college with honors and secured a job at a respected pharmaceutical company in Chicago. We stayed close, visiting monthly. Any regrets about the divorce? He asked once. None, I said. Your mother taught me the difference between loving someone and enabling destructive behavior. I learned that Isabella and Preston's relationship collapsed within a year. He discovered she was still seeing other men, including Victor from the gym. Some people never learn. Dylan was 4, living with Isabella in a small apartment. I saw him once at the grocery store. He didn't recognize me, and Isabella quickly averted her gaze. I felt nothing. That chapter was closed. My career thrived post-divorce. Free from Isabella's chaos, I focused on work and became regional director. My salary increased, and every penny was mine. I started dating carefully. Sarah, a nurse and divorced mother, valued honesty and stability. What's the most important lesson from your divorce? She asked over dinner. That love without honesty isn't love at all. It's dependency disguised as romance. Sarah smiled. Wisdom bought with pain. I nodded. It was worth the price. We took things slowly, rebuilding trust. Theodore approved of Sarah. She's nothing like Mom. She listens, he said. That simple observation said it all. Isabella had performed for 20 years. Sarah was authentic. Looking back, Isabella had done me a favor by revealing her true nature. If she had been discreet, I might have wasted decades on someone incapable of genuine love. The house was now quietly honest. No lies, no deceptions, just peace, authenticity, and the chance to build something real. I had survived betrayal and emerged victorious. Not because I destroyed Isabella, she destroyed herself, but because I refused to let her destruction touch me. That was true strength. That was true victory.